Hello everyone, welcome back. We have a lot and my voice isn't at its best, but here we go. I will be jumping from scripture to discussion frequently. We're reading Matthew chapter 10. He called his 12 disciples to him and gave them authority to drive out evil spirits and to heal every disease and sickness. These are the names of the 12 apostles. First, Simon, who is called Peter, and his brother Andrew, James, son of Zebedee, and his brother John, Philip and Bartholomew, Thomas and Matthew the tax collector, James, son of Alphaeus and Thaddeus, Simon the Zealot, and Judas Iscariot, who betrayed him. First note, some of those names might be confusing, but that's just because Matthew is writing this after everything has gone down. So Judas hasn't betrayed Jesus yet in this timeline. And scholars are pretty sure that Simon wasn't called Peter yet, but it's not certain. And Bartholomew might actually be called Nathaniel because of the wording of his name. It's like Robert and Bob. I have absolutely no idea how you get Bob out of Robert, but you can. So Bartholomew and Nathaniel are like that in their language. Anyways, I digress. Something that we often forget is that the disciples were a diverse group. Some probably had a hard time getting along with each other, but Jesus sent them out in pairs that he chose, and he gave them actual power to drive out evil spirits and heal. That would be cool. But let's read on, because it wasn't all cool. These 12 Jesus sent out with the following instructions. Fun fact, they're called apostles for many reasons, but this is kind of the first time where they earned that title, because apostle means he was sent. Do not go among the Gentiles or enter any town of the Samaritans. Go rather to the lost sheep of Israel. So this in a way means that Jesus didn't want his ministry shared with the Gentiles. I mean, in other chapters, he's probably happier to share his news with Gentiles than his fellow Jews, but this was not what he wanted his disciples to do at this time. Why? Well, that's kind of how it is for God. He's got the perfect plan and makes the perfect decisions, but he rarely ever explains what he's doing. But hey, that's what trust is for. As you go, preach this message. The kingdom of heaven is near. Luckily, the disciples had plenty of material to preach. Even if they only focused on the Sermon on the Mount, that would be enough. But they also had parables and other lines that Jesus said. I'm sure the louder ones, like Simon Peter, were excited to preach, but the quieter ones might not have been as excited. Heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse those who have leprosy, drive out demons. The disciples were probably amazed that they would be given this power. Very few people have been able to do any of that. Even a lot of prophets that could heal someone didn't raise anyone from the dead. Some of them did, but anyways, this was power that they probably didn't expect to ever have in their life. Freely you have received, freely give. Do not take along any gold or silver or copper in your belts. Take no bag for the journey, or extra tunic, or sandals or a staff, for the worker is worth his keep. Jesus wanted to make it clear that God would provide everything they need. This was in no way easy for them, and they were probably disappointed. It's funny because Jesus basically told them to be the opposite of a Boy Scout. Don't come prepared. If I were an apostle, which we technically are, but not in this way. But anyways, if I was an apostle, this would be the hardest part for me. I need to come prepared or else I get very anxious. But it's more important to learn to trust God. So let's move on, but I think that I will just read out the rest altogether now, then cover it after. So, verse 11. Whatever town or village you enter, search for some worthy person there and stay at his house until you leave. As you enter the home, give it your greeting. If the home is deserving, let your peace rest on it. If it is not, let your peace return to you. If anyone will not welcome you or listen to your words, shake the dust off your feet when you leave that home or town. I tell you the truth, it will be more bearable for Sodom and Gomorrah on the day of judgment than for that town. I am sending you out like sheep among wolves. Therefore be as shrewd as snakes and as innocent as doves. Be on your guard against men. They will hand you over to the local councils and flog you in their synagogues. On my account you will be brought before governors and kings as witnesses to them and to the Gentiles. But when they arrest you, do not worry about what to say or how to say it. At that time you will be given what to say, for it will not be you speaking, but the Spirit of your Father speaking through you. Brother will betray brother to death, and a father his child. Children will rebel against their parents and have them put to death. All men will hate you because of me, but he who stands firm to the end will be saved. When you are persecuted in one place, flee to another. I tell you the truth, you will not finish going through the cities of Israel before the Son of Man comes. A student is not above his teacher, nor a servant above his master. It is enough for the student to be like his teacher, and the servant like his master. If the head of the house has been called Beelzebub, how much more the members of his household? So do not be afraid of them. There is nothing concealed that will not be disclosed, or hidden that will not be made known. What I tell you in the dark, speak in the daylight. What is whispered in your ear, proclaim from the roofs. Do not be afraid of those who kill the body, but cannot kill the soul. Rather, be afraid of the one who can destroy both soul and body in hell. Are not 2 sparrows sold for a penny? Yet not one of them will fall into the ground apart from the will of your Father. And even the very hairs of your head are all numbered. So don't be afraid. You are worth more than many sparrows. Whoever acknowledges me before men, I will also acknowledge him before my Father in heaven. But whoever disowns me before men, I will disown him before my Father in heaven. Do not suppose that I have come to bring peace to the earth. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword. For I have come to turn a man against his father, a daughter against her mother, a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. A man's enemies will be the members of his own household. Anyone who loves his father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. Anyone who loves his son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. And anyone who does not take his cross and follow me is not worthy of me. Whoever finds his life will lose it, and whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. He who receives you receives me, and he who receives me receives the one who sent me. Anyone who receives a prophet because he is a prophet will receive a prophet's reward, and anyone who receives a righteous man because he is a righteous man will receive a righteous man's reward. And if anyone gives even a cup of cold water to one of these little ones because he is my disciple, I tell you the truth, he will certainly not lose his reward. So clearly, this was not going to be a fun jog for the apostles. He said that some people will like them, some people will not. They should expect some to not like them, but it won't be their fault that they hate them. They just have hard hearts. And again, remember that they are to only preach to Jews, so it's not their Jewishness that will be rejected, but the fact that they follow Jesus. As we've covered many times, Jesus' ministry was a bold one. And then he goes into the nature of hate, but specifically how his ministry will divide people. Now, it's important to mention that what he's talking about here is nature, not what he would like it to be. There are many other verses where God and Jesus claim that they only want us all to love each other, but Jesus is not naive, so he basically claims that he has come to bring division, because that's just how we are as humans, and he definitely predicted that very well. To this day, families are torn apart, churches split. This reminds me of the story of Pharaoh. See, in Exodus, Moses kept asking Pharaoh to let the Hebrews go free from slavery. And it says that God hardened Pharaoh's heart. What does that mean? Well, there's an analogy that explains it pretty clearly, at least to me. If you put a block of butter in the sun and a block of clay in the sun, what will happen? They're the exact same distance from the sun. The sun isn't casting its rays differently for either one, but one softens and one hardens. That's what it's like with God. He's casting his light on our hearts in the same way, and they either get soft or they get hard, based on what we make them. And as he says, it's based on how much you want to follow him, and how much we love him. This can be very difficult. It's hard to love him more than our loved ones, but even if you don't have any loved ones, he still says that we must love him even more than our own lives. And how do we love him? Well, at the end, he says something that is very similar to what he says in Matthew 25 and a few other parts of the Gospel. If we love others, then it's like we love Jesus. Now, that may sound confusing because I just said that you must love Jesus first, but the love he wants us to give others isn't a love that benefits you. It probably won't even make you happy. It's a love that will make you uncomfortable. That's what God calls real love. And love that benefits you isn't bad, but it's not the greatest love. The greatest love is when you help the least of these. Then we can be called an apostle of Christ. Thanks, guys.